What is going on, everybody? Welcome to our live Q&A that we do every Wednesday. I am joined, as usual, by my... Oh, no sound, huh? Oh, man. Bear with me just a second here. No, I seem to be good. Let me know in the chat if you can hear me. Yeah, you're good. What's up with you? What's going on? If you can, yeah, sounds good. Looks like it might just be your headphones, Chris. We'll give Chris a minute to get his headphones fixed. Oh, perfect. There we go. All right. We'll start this thing over. What is going on, everybody? Welcome to our live Wednesday show. I'm glad you guys can show up. This is the show where we answer your guys' questions. And of course, we go over a little bit of Amazon news to help you guys and keep you guys informed as to what's going on. Of course, this week we have a sponsor for the show. The sponsor is Tactical Arbitrage. Tactical Arbitrage is a sourcing software that will help you find some more products. There's a bunch of different ways to use it, but you can learn more about it at cleartheshelf.com/tactical down below this video or above this video somewhere. As usual, I am joined by my Ostrogobulus co-host, Chris Rasick.
Yeah, that's not a real word.
Yes, it is. That is a real word. Absolutely. I had to dive deep for that one, but it basically means you're interesting is what it means.
Yeah.
Or
you're lying.
But let's go ahead and let's dive into a few things. Now, I've even got some news today where I'm going to do a little screen sharing with you guys. And then, of course, if you have questions, make sure to drop them in the chat and we'll answer those for you guys. But first, before anything, we've got to bring up fees one more time. This is the last time for a while, I promise. Starting on June 1st, we've talked about this in the past, but starting on June 1st, we've got a returns processing fee that's going to go into effect for all products except for apparel and shoes, because apparel and shoes already have a returns processing fee on each and every return. Now, a little bit of good news is that the returns processing fee for clothing is going to go down by just a hair. So for those of you who sell a lot of clothing, that is good news. But for the rest of us who stay away from shoes and clothing for the most part, we may have a returns processing fee, but it is only if your returns are higher than the return rate threshold that Amazon sets. Now, the last time we talked about this, Amazon had not set those return rate thresholds, but they released that data just the other day. So now we've got a baseline of what your returns can be in every category and when you'll be charged for a return processing fee. I'm not going to go through each and every one of these because and what's weird is they don't go by subcategory, of course, which is how we can actually look up the average return rate in a lot of categories. So, for example, women's running shoes is like a 16% return rate, whereas men's running shoes is like a 13% return rate. But they're not basing the return rate threshold on subcategories like that. We've got computers as a category, consumer electronics, everything else, eyewear, which I thought was a subcategory. We have furniture, grocery, and gourmet, but they're not separating out like the bakery section compared to the rest of the grocery category. Jewelry is also included in here. The worst one that I can see is 12%. 12% is the return rate for watches, which I did not expect it to be that high in the watch category. Some of the other higher categories are pet products at 10.2%, musical instruments at 9.2%. We've got 10.8 for jewelry, 11.9 for full size appliances, 12.1 in eyewear, 11.2 in consumer electronics, and 12.6 in compact appliances. Now, what this means is that if you have return rates over that amount, then you will get a return processing fee. And the problem is you don't get hit with this until 2 months after it happens. So it's a fee that you're going to pay later on down the road. So take that into account.
So February gets a little more uncomfortable, I would imagine, potentially. If the return fees are paid in February from the tail end of Q4. Okay, so the question is, first question that popped up was they're lowering the fees for clothing and shoes. So is that just kind of like a leveling across all categories? Are they anticipating the income to offset losses that they were taking in clothing and shoes?
I would imagine that may be the case, or maybe lowering the fees in clothing and shoes is a way to be able to come out with a PR statement that says, oh, well, this fee is only going to be, a 2% increase, rather than the higher fee that it will actually be. That's my guess.
Or be able to officially log a fee decrease. Be like, well, we did decrease fee.
Right.
That may be an important statement that's technically true.
Yeah. Now you bring up a really good point. Go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was going to say that you were rattling off the some of the high numbers, but it feels like the lower numbers are the ones that we need to be more concerned about, right?
Absolutely.
It's that 5.5 in beauty that kind of makes me a little sweaty.
Yep, 5.5 in beauty, 2.9 in grocery and gourmet food. Which
most of that's supposed to, so
right. It doesn't sound legit in either one of those categories, in my opinion. First of all, they're supposed to both be categories where a majority of things are not returnable. Right. But of course, they have them as 5.5 and 2.9. It's going to suck. It's going to suck in some of those categories because returns are inevitable. Right. You have any idea what your return rate? You have any idea what your return rate for beauty is?
I don't. I need to start paying attention to that.
Yeah. Now, you brought up another good point about after Q4. Returnuary, goes through January. And the return rate is supposed to be realigned every 3 months. So does that mean that they will increase this for the months of December and January, knowing that the return rate increases overall? I can only imagine it's going to be like that gas fee that they introduced for a short-term period that has stayed around ever since they brought that on, and it's not going to be helpful for us come January or returnuary.
Right. Yeah, that's a good. Wow, that's a scary point. That is something that they could raise.
Mm-hmm.
That 4.7% in toys is a little alarming. Also thinking about Q4,
Oh yeah.
Especially depending on the volume that you're doing, just think about duplicate presents, or adults not getting the name of something right, and
mm-hmm.
Like when I was a kid, I'd ask for Transformers and somebody give me a GoBot and it's like, you throw it on the ground and stomp away angry. It's not nearly the same thing.
Absolutely. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'm hoping that it ends up being a lot like the low inventory level fee, and it maybe arbitrage sellers are going to be able to sidestep this for the most part. But I think it's largely also going to depend on, things like how well you prep. I think that this is the nail in the coffin for glass products for me. Never done a whole lot of them. Actually, at one point we were doing a ton. Candles, salt and pepper shakers from TJ Maxx and things like that. But I think going forward, I think this means no more glass, period. I'm not sure where else things might need to change a little bit.
Depending on personal tolerance, with your own store, my mind went to those listings. You find them every once in a while where there's a whole lot of evidence that it used to be a multi-pack, but then somebody's, and so there's some bad reviews, and it's only one, and it seems like they try to change it, but they don't seem to catch every reference to the multi-pack. But then there's that period where, after, a little bit of time goes by to where, it's not people complaining like they only sent me one. It's supposed to be 3 or whatever, and it's kind of been ironed out, but the price is nice and high still, and there's no evidence that it's a multi-pack anymore. And it's probably safe to sell on, and it's awfully tempting. And, have you run into that scenario, right? It's not just
absolutely
not just me, right?
No, it's not just you. No,
that kind of makes the decision making, skew a little more conservative, I would imagine.
Absolutely. Yeah. We've got a little other news that the news agencies make this sound bad. I don't know if it's quite as bad as they make it out to be. But retail sales in April were flat. And this, of course, fell short of Wall Street expectations. And what I mean by retail sales were flat, it was exactly the same as March. That, in my opinion, is good news. But of course, the regular news says that the U.S. consumer showed signs of slowing in April. Retail sales were flat in the month, according to data from the Commerce Department. Of course, this has further fanned the flames about concerns of the state of the consumer amid sticky inflation and higher interest rates. This marked a slowdown from the 0.6 month-over-month increase seen in March, and economists suspected a 0.4% increase in spending in the month of April. Excuse me. But I don't necessarily think this was such a big deal, because they go on to say that there were multiple large-scale sales in the month of March, and there were no such sales in April. And so, of course, if people spent more in March, it's very possible that they've pulled back for the month of April. And then if we go a little bit further, and you and I have talked about travel bookings for the summer, they're through the roof. So, of course, maybe people are slowing down, getting ready to spend more while they're traveling. And people know that Prime Day is coming in July. That's not that far off. And so if you're going to buy something big, why not wait until Prime Day to do it? I mean, the consumer by and large is not a complete moron. So I'm not really sure. I think this is kind of a non-starter for me. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so too. I mean, we've talked. There's a sentiment that, I think we're coming out of a period of time where there was some revenge spending. Like there, from lockdowns and whatnot. Everybody, the overall opinion or the value placed on experiences over objects. And of course, experiences are more expensive in general, So, and I've just recently, within the last week or so, I didn't think to save it for the show. I should have, but I did read where the sentiment is that the consumers are looking at cheaper alternatives. They're looking to lower the overall ticket cost of some items, which makes sense. If we're sandwiched in between the end of revenge travel and the uncrimped hose that was spending post the worst of the COVID era, and we're right before summer travel, which we know is probably going to be pretty big based on leading indicators. Yeah, it makes sense. Well, I mean, how could there not be a lull?
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. I'll be fascinated to see what the average ticket for like the next really big spend period, in my opinion, is going to be back to school, which is going to be middle of July or so. Crazy to think that, but in middle of July will be the next big spend period. I'm gonna be fascinated to see what the average spend per family is this season. And I think that will help inform us as to what may happen through the rest of the year. So we'll see. The next thing here, it's not us dancing on the grave quite yet, but I'm hoping that this is a step in the right direction. But Temu has decided to pull back quite a bit here in the U.S. Chinese e-commerce company Temu is reportedly looking beyond the United States for growth. They invested billions of dollars. I had heard up to $2 billion a month in things like Facebook ads, becoming, I think, Facebook's largest advertiser at one point. But apparently that has all but gone now. They were expecting 60% of their sales in 2023 to come from the US. And in 2024, they now expect less than 30% of their sales to come from the US. I remember you and I said, everyone was talking about Temu and it being, it's going to take over and Amazon better watch out. And sure enough, here it is. They're already turning tail and running, just because the U.S. government is talking a little bit about giving TikTok a hard time.
Yeah. There's also, did you read about the loophole, the tax loophole that they're trying to close also?
I did not. I must have missed that.
Yeah, there's a loophole, and it's from the 1930s, I guess, to where products valued under $800 can be brought into the country without inspection. And it was originally a tourism loophole. It was put in place for American tourists bringing products from Asia back and whatnot. And they're actually trying to close that, which would have a significant impact on Temu, however the hell you say it.
I'm all for that. They also get like super cheap shipping with the postal service, which I think that loophole should be closed as well.
Right.
I don't mind competition at all. I think that competition is good for the marketplace. However, there should be a level playing field, and at this moment in time, there is not a level playing field, which makes no sense to me.
Right. And I don't particularly like, what I really hate is premature predictions. It seems like all this stuff is just locked and loaded for whatever name seems to pop up the most on Google Trends or whatever it is. It's just boilerplate stuff. Is Shine the next Amazon there, or the Amazon killer? And it's just, I don't know. It's just such a tired repeating formula.
Yeah. What will get us plenty of clicks to pay the bills? Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
It's a little frustrating. All right. The other piece of news that I wanted to talk about is I wanted to share that ChatGPT released a new model here earlier this week. I think it was on Monday that they actually released this. It's called 4 4O, which I thought was kind of weird. Instead of calling it 4+ or 5 or whatever, I'm not sure what the O stands for, but they are calling this 4O, and it is, in my opinion, so far it's been a little bit faster. It has been it's been a little bit more accurate, although it did what do they call it? They don't call it making things up.
Hallucinate.
Hallucinating. Yeah, it did hallucinate just a little bit, but I actually popped in here a screenshot, and I wrote a Twitter thread about this today, but I popped in here a screenshot of the data tab from Keepa earlier today. And I said, hey, based on all this data from this chart, do you think that if I could buy this item for $44 along with a 10% off coupon, which this is where I think I really screwed it up. I made it do some simple math. If I could buy this for $39 and some change, would this make for a good item to sell on Amazon for a profit? Then, of course, if you need any more data, let me know, please. And so it went in here and it did everything. It figured out the purchase cost, 44, times 0.10 is $39.60. It knew about what the referral fees are. So 15% of the sale price for the referral fee. It got the FBA fee within 40 cents for this particular item. It said, let's estimate $3.50. So that was not too bad. It pulled out the market prices, the current FBA price, the 90-day FBA price for the buy box, pulled out the average new price over the past 90 days, and then what the lowest FBA price was overall. It calculated some potential profits on this particular item, and it showed me how it did the math, and then it gave me the information. It said it should be pretty good based on the sales rank, indicating some decent demand. Told me that I should go and check the other competitors to see what they're doing. But if you can consistently sell this at the 90-day average price and manage the competition effectively, this item could be profitable. I went and I did ask it to reassess by including the 180-day average selling price, and it did that for me as well, because the 180-day average selling price was significantly different. This was a product where it looks like it's starting to crest the second wave. So this was something that had a large number of sellers for a while. It dipped down to what the market would bear, and now it's starting to go back on an uptrend. And I expect the price to start coming down pretty soon, although it is profitable right now for someone who might be able to hurry and kind of catch the falling price a little bit. And so it went in and it did that again. And it calculated the profit over again, calculated it with the 180-day average price, and gave me a little bit more information. Now, the thing is, it pulled the wrong data from the image for the 180-day average buy box price. So I had to feed that in manually, and then it redid everything again. Now, this was the second go that I had at this. The first one, it did perfect on the first round. But I did all the math for the buy cost automatically. So my takeaway from this is ChatGPT is definitely getting better. And this could be a pretty good way for maybe someone who is newer to sourcing on Amazon to at least get some ideas without necessarily having to wait for someone to respond to them and look at a particular product, but get some ideas of how something might fare based on some averages, and also be given some ideas of things to pay attention to while they're looking at all this data that Keepa offers us. Again, not 100% perfect yet, but I think that over time, or with people maybe training their own GPTs, or, there is a memory when you're doing these regular conversations with ChatGPT, that over time, if this learns a little bit more, this could become something that is pretty handy for Amazon sellers.
So it basically becomes an AI guru And if it does it buy a digital Lambo?
That's a good question.
Posting pictures of itself.
That's a good question. I mean, we could certainly ask it to post pictures of itself in front of a Lambo.
So let me ask you this. Is this useful right now, or is it still an almost there?
I think it's still almost there. The first round that I did, like I said, this is the second one that I did today. Because I wanted to add in there I found a coupon after I found this product. And so I wanted to throw that in there and kind of mix things up. The first go of it, I thought was better. The second one, not as good. And if the results are going to be inconsistent like this, I think maybe we're looking at this being much more helpful on ChatGPT 5 or maybe 6. Maybe there's a possibility that someone could go in and train their own GPT on the proper fees and things like that. And this becomes more helpful if they give the GPT to others. But right now, I think it's just something to go play with. It's not really something I'm going to utilize every single day.
Yeah. It is a nice update overall. I do like that they made it available even to the free users. Like that's it's and in case we haven't talked about this and we're not, the audience isn't familiar with the stance, I have zero credence in the fearful parts of the headlines that you'll read about ChatGPT. I think that's another boilerplate, or just the natural process of things. When something this impactful becomes accessible to the public.
Yeah. I'm not really worried about AI becoming. I do use my P's and Q's with AI just in case there's an off chance that it becomes our overlord down the road.
Yes, you're always polite.
Yeah, but I don't really think that it's going to have this godlike status, at least in our lifetime. Maybe down the road. And Ray Kurzweil does say that. What does he call that? I can't remember what term he uses, but the singularity. Ray Kurzweil does think the singularity happens within the next decade or so. He's been pretty spot on with his prognostications, but I just don't know if that's really what happens.
Yeah, but please and thank yous in the meantime, just in case, right?
Absolutely. All right, so we've got some questions here, and this one is from Foab. Hey guys, can you please explain a CSM brand review? Had a buddy get gated for Nike recently due to this type of review. Can you get ungated by traditional means? Yeah, CSM brand reviews are usually fairly straightforward to overcome. You need to show that everything's authentic and everything's good to go. Make sure you've got your receipts, your shipping confirmation, your delivery confirmation. If you've got an image of the product in hand, that would be helpful. Have a bank statement or a credit card statement showing the purchase. And if you use something like a discount gift card, you're going to need to show that trail. So your credit card statement to the gift card company, the gift card being used on the receipt or the invoice. And once you show them that, you should be able to overcome it pretty easy. And then if you're allowed to get ungated again, yes, you should be able to get ungated. I don't like the term traditional methods, because the traditional method is the old school, let's use invoices kind of way. And that's for those of us who've been around a decade. The traditional method for the guys who've been around for less than 3 years is places like Champs and Kohl's and things like that. And those should work as well. Yes. Peter, who's selling all the glass? There's lots of people that sell glass products. I'm not against it. It's just, I think that things need to change a little bit with the way that the returns processing fee will go.
Man, Vitacost sent me, I didn't realize they were glass when I ordered it. Turns out they are. And Vitacost has these air bubble like satchels. Have you seen those? It's a pocket with like a hood over it, and it just kind of has a slit where they put the glass bottle in. Man, those things are slick.
Right. Is it the one with is it the long tubed air bubbles, or is it? Yeah, those are nice. Yep. Mr. Levine says a return merchant fulfilled order over $100. I responded initially asking them to return the item. I've not received the item and has been more than 30 days. Suggestion so it's not a negative on the account. Chris, what do you do in these situations?
I have never merchant fulfilled anything in my life, so I couldn't tell you. I'm not an MFer.
I don't know that there is anything negative on your account for not refunding, but you don't have to refund if they haven't returned the item to you. That's all it takes. I'll need to double check. It's been a long time since I've merchant fulfilled anything. Probably been at least 2 Q4s now. But I'll double check. If you want to shoot me a DM, I'll double check the right way to handle that for you.
I believe the term that the kids say, I'm missing out on wealth.
Right? You are not printing the wealth. That is correct.
Printing the wealth. That's it.
Do you ever analyze your own storefront on Keepa? And if so, what do you look out for? I don't think that I do.
I don't do it. I don't do it on Keepa, but I use the shotgun method. And so I have a list of thousands upon thousands of storefronts. And I pulled those from Keepa, and my store is in there every once in a while. And so I'll grab chunks of like 10 stores at a time, and then pull the ASINs out and then run those through TA on a regular basis. And when I see my store, I run it, the first thing off the top of my head is I may be able to find products that I bought already, which obviously I decided it's a good buy. I may be able to find them cheaper, so I leave it in the mix and just let it run and spit out results in TA.
Yeah, I think that's a solid idea. Lounge Zinger. Speaking of which, when is your last Lambo picture, Chris? Starting to doubt your guru status. I have never been one to take my picture in front of someone else's car. I've got a paid off 2015 Chevy Silverado, and I'm going to drive that thing until the wheels fall off. It just hit 70,000 miles, so I've probably got a few years left on it.
That's it. OA is very good on cars, right?
Right.
Speaking of that, I recently hit the point in that PayPal book that I'm reading, The Founders. I just read the part where Elon and Peter Thiel get in a wreck in his McLaren.
Oh, yes.
Have you heard that story?
A great story.
Yeah. So, and they said apparently that McLaren was rebuilt by someone, and that person still owns it after a year of having it repaired.
Huh. That's awesome. Let's see here. Do you currently use Storefront Stalker frequently? Like, is it a vital or an occasional tool? I use Storefront Stalker almost on a daily basis. I'm in there checking things, removing or adding stores, and then downloading the ASINs to use in tactical arbitrage just for ease of use and easy finds. And I do some manual sourcing in there as well, especially if it's an item that's being merchant fulfilled, just to see if it's something that is like an easy win right now.
Yeah. And I use it probably 5 days a week, I would say. I tend to put the blinders on, with whatever method that I happen to choose. But I kind of have it categorized as far as what type of store they are. that I'm stocking. So
Mhm.
I know, I could pull up my OA stores, and then I could pull up the stores that do a lot of FBM if I want to try to catch a current sale going on. That's good for that. There's a couple that I get RA leads from, so I can kind of pick and choose what I want to. And then I've also realized that I need to maintain the list. I need to pay attention a little better, because there were a couple stores that I don't know whether it was maybe a section 3 or maybe they just closed their doors, but I do need to pay attention to the actual storefronts too, because there were some dead stores. So and the quicker I can find those and replace them, obviously, the more valuable it is. Did you see my screenshot? Did you see how many ASINs popped up that one round?
11,000. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was nuts.
Yeah. Oh, I got a headache. I was like, what? How am I supposed to handle that?
Yeah, that was a really good one. On that same day, I had 8,000, and I was going to share it, but I was like, you got me way beat. I'll tell you something that I did, Lounginger, is just today I took 20,000 ASINs out of Storefront Stalker Pro. I threw it into Tactical Arbitrage this morning around 10 a.m. Very minimal filters. And I've got about 40 or 50 items in here to go and actually that I could source. Just at a quick glance, I'd say that 4 or 5 of these are probably pretty daggone good leads. One of them specifically is really solid. But I'm going to let this run for the full 72 hours before I really pay attention to it. And I actually probably should have broken this up into 10,000 ASIN lists to let it run. But
I do that every Sunday. I go in and set it. Date is or like since the previous Sunday, and then I'll pull that week's list and run those through TA. I do that every Sunday night.
That's a good idea.
Keeps it manageable.
I need to go through and remove some of my storefronts that I'm currently stocking, because some of them are not what I'm interested in. But earlier today, I pulled up, I happen to know of a couple of larger storefronts. So inside of the 100,000 top sellers in Keepa, I tried to model their storefronts to find other storefronts similar to them. And I used the number of verified listings to try to find resellers rather than, private label sellers. I think I did a pretty good job. It looks like there's only maybe 1 or 2 private label sellers in the list, but I've got about 50 that are just under that 5,000 cutoff for Storefront Stalker Pro. And I'm going to throw a few in there and see how it works out, because some of them are obviously OA sellers. And it's going to be an interesting little experiment.
Yeah.
Widya, Calvin Klein shows up red on IP alert. However, there are plenty of sellers on their listings. Have you heard anybody who's gotten an IP within the last year? No. And so here's the problem. If a brand has been known to file IP complaints in the past, and it comes up on IP alert, typically people are not then telling me again that they've gotten an IP complaint. And so the social aspect of IP alert stops working on that part. And the other thing is that it's just a data point. It's not meant to stop you from selling on any particular listing. It's just to give you a heads up that it has happened. Now, I do go in and I try to remove brands on occasion when I know that they've stopped, or where people can sell through without any issues. And I can check on Calvin Klein. But if you don't see any significant drops in the number of sellers over the past year, it's probably okay to hop on there, even though IP alert shows that there is an IP alert. How do you know when a listing is generic? This one's pretty easy. Inside of the listing, the product detail page, you'll see the brand. and it should say generic. That's it.
Should, but it doesn't always.
True. Yeah.
So I've started when I'm sourcing, I've started taking the ASIN and going to Seller Central and adding a product, popping that ASIN in, and putting new condition and making sure that little pop-up doesn't hit, because I've been burned a couple times on that.
That's good. On those particular listings, when you click on the brand name on the product detail page, does it show you in the search? Does it show generic, or does it still show the brand that's showing up on the product detail page?
It's the brand itself, but I found some that have a brand name, but somehow on the back end or something like that, Amazon has them classified as generic, apparently.
Okay. If you come across another one of those, would you shoot it over to me? I want to try something out.
Yeah, sure will.
Peter, is there any way that you recommend to sell the inventory that's been in FBA longer than 180 days? The easiest way is going to be to cut your price. I'm guessing that's the cause of the inventory being there more than 180 days. You need to charge what the market is willing to pay. And then I see your follow-up question here is, do you want everything sold out after 90 days? Typically, I do. Yes. And another one here. I have about 150 items that are between 180 and 355 days. What would you recommend I do with this inventory? So, all right, here's the thing. That you've already got sunk costs into that inventory. So you might as well just figure that those are sunk costs. They're gone. You can't get them back unless you sell the products. All right. Now, maybe the prices have gone below what is profitable for you. And so now you're going to have some realized sunk costs if you sell them at the current market value, because maybe you're going to lose 10 or 20 or 30% of your capital. Okay. But if you continue to allow those products to sit on the shelves, what's going to happen is you're now also going to have those long-term storage fees. 180 days to 355 days is a higher storage fee than your normal storage fees from 0 to 180 days. And it's significantly higher. And maybe something is 2 or 3 cents a month to store for the first 6 months, and then it goes up quite a bit. So now you've got losses piling up on losses. So you need to get that inventory sold, get whatever capital you can back, and then redeploy it in a manner that is hopefully more fruitful, and you can make it up over a longer period of time.
And if that's, well, it's 150 items, not 150 ASINs. So depending on how many ASINs it is, it's probably not a bad idea to maybe check like eBay, Mercari, stuff like that, see what it's going for there. Because you may be able to, it may actually be more profitable to pull it back from Amazon and sell it on another platform.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, I think overall is, how do you sell stuff 180 days plus as fast as possible is my answer.
That's exactly the way to go. Lex says we should have a weekly dad joke. I don't mind
fantastic idea.
This. Yeah. And I'll go first. I'll tell you what. I got one for this week.
I had one ready too. All right, go ahead.
All right. You go first.
All right. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
No, I don't know. What do you call a fish with no eyes?
Fish.
That's good. All right. What's the difference between you and a calendar?
Tell me.
A calendar has dates.
Ooh.
But a bump. That was rough. I didn't mean to slam you, but we could do that. I'm down with a dad joke every single week.
Yeah. I mean, I got to come up with a caption for my name anyway, so we might as well throw a dad joke in there. This is going to get to be like more than 30 seconds worth of prep to do these damn shows. Like, what is this turning into?
I know this is going to be some actual work.
Right, we're gonna have to get a backing band, and this is going to turn into, late night FBA.
Right. Luke is curious. Did he miss the prescription makeup explanation?
No, Chris hasn't taken the bait yet, Luke. You didn't miss anything.
All right.
It's been built. It's been sitting there for too long. It's not, the payoff is not worth it. So just lower your expectations. It's simply me venting my account health issues. I had a restricted product. It's an eyelash kit, right? It's not my color. It doesn't work for me. So but Amazon account health, they seem to think that there is an ingredient that is prescription only,
of course,
in this eyelash kit, and it's literally just like a thickening something. Which, I mean, does there even exist a makeup product that would require a prescription?
None that I'm aware of. But I only wear makeup on the weekends, and so there's not a ton of it that I look through.
Right. I mean, I don't think Botox counts. No, we can't sell that anyway.
Exactly.
But yeah, so that's what I'm dealing with, and so I go to the website and I print the ingredient list off, and they're like, that's not good enough. We can't approve your appeal, because why would you? And so now they want a picture of the product, of course, with the ingredient list. What do they think we do? Do they think we just have stockpiles of this and like, well, okay, I'll take a chunk of these and send it into Amazon, and then there's just a warehouse worth of all these products? I don't know.
That is a good question. I am curious with it now, because you're not dealing with somebody who really knows the nuts and bolts of how Amazon sellers work. You're most likely dealing with someone who English is probably their second language, and they've been trained just enough to deal with these kind of things. And I don't know, maybe they think you own a store and just sell on Amazon in addition. I wonder what real education would do for seller support.
Well, what's funny is if you think about, you explain that the people handling these, processing these appeals and whatnot, aren't well versed in, the category, the products, the ingredients, anything that they're talking about, basically. But most likely, they're handling appeals from probably a bot or something, which doesn't know anything about anything either. So it's just the blind leading the stupid, or I don't even know how that would work. It's just none of it is based in common sense, apparently.
Yeah. Next up here, Widya, Chris, I heard you mention that in some states we're able to get some sales state tax reimbursement. Would you mind going into more details about it and how and if the process is complicated? I have never done it. I've read about it. I've looked at some of the sales tax guidelines in a couple of different states. Here's the thing. It involves dealing with a government agency whose sole job is to collect as much revenue as possible. And I have overpaid sales tax before Marketplace Facilitator existed to the state of Ohio to the tune of over $10,000, and hired a lawyer to try to get that money back. And they just flat out said, no, we don't refund, even though the evidence was there. So I have written that money off. I don't think I'm ever going to get it back. I threw good money after bad. The process, I am sure, is complicated. And so I'm not ever going to even attempt it. But I have suggested to other people to offer it as a service, because I think it would be helpful for people who don't mind going through the hoops and rigmarole that dealing with governments takes.
Was it Perry that talked about that? About filing? It was somebody in Texas, somebody that we spent some time with in an interview.
Yeah, I think he may have. Yeah, I think he might have. Let's see here. Lounger says, I've always left all the SKUs in Seller Central, even if inactive or they are years old. It helps me find deals or short stocked items when they go in collectible status. However, I get IP dings and assorted complaints from Amazon scripts all the time. Like on average, I maybe have 200 SKUs active and 5,500 on Seller Central. Do you guys manage your inventory list and move them elsewhere? Chris, what are your thoughts on this?
My God, Lounge Zinger, what like what you just asking for abuse? I tell you what, I shouldn't tease you because I didn't think it was as big of a deal as it can be, or as big of a benefit, I should say, until I actually started deleting SKUs on a regular basis. Like all of those annoying, like my account health violation count was decimated, like almost literally. It's probably a tenth of what it was, like literally decimated. Like it is so helpful for me. I did it this morning. I just went in and realized I couldn't remember the last time, but it felt like it had been at least a month or something like that. And I sorted everything by 30 days or longer since any activity or whatever the status change, I think is how they word it on there. And I just deleted about 200 SKUs this morning.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's exactly what everyone should do. If nothing else teaches you to do that, the Clinique situation that happened recently should show you that you need to get rid of those things. And I expect that to happen again, because we know that more Estee Lauder brands are going to hit the chopping block in the future. I think one happened. Smashbox happened within the past week and a half. There are more that are going to fall. And so I expect one of those to have a bunch of suspected IP complaints on people again in the future. Love being picky. If your brand is selling on Amazon, can I sell under that listing? I don't have a brand on Amazon currently, but if I ever do have a brand on Amazon, you may not sell on my brand. But you can sell on, most household brands that are out there. There are some that, keep resellers off. There's Clinique and all the Estee Lauder brands that are closing up and some other ones. But yeah, as long as you're approved to sell it, you should be able to sell it on Amazon, most likely. Comes with risks, like everything else, of course. Luke says he thinks he might have the exact ASIN that you're talking about with the prescription makeup. Can you split up the items in that bundle and still sell it?
If I can get my wife to give it back, yeah, probably. So, I think that's one I looked up on eBay, and it looks pretty decent. I mean, I was just gonna kind of slap it on there and just get back what I can. So it was only a small test buy. So
nice. Peter says, I'm going to the expo in NYC, the white label and e-com business at the end of the month. Any recommendations to get the most out of it? I've never been to a white label expo. I'm not sure I can really be too helpful there. I apologize. Chris, you got anything for him?
Well, you know what? That's a white label is essentially private label, right? It's a product that you're able to put your own label on. Am I thinking of the right thing?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. That involves a lot of research, I would think. I mean, at least the way I would approach it. It's you have to look at data. I mean, it's almost like the wholesale convention approach plus keyword research and trending data and stuff like that. So it almost seems like it'd be a little bit extra preparation heading into it.
Yeah, I would.
And that's not helpful at all. I realize, Peter, and I apologize.
Yeah. There's probably some opportunities, but I'd really need to think about that. Let's see here. GSD, real support would be a cost saver. Get it done in one shot rather than 15. Yeah, I agree. It would probably be a cost saver.
Look,
Back
GSD,
and forth.
this we're talking. There's no room for common sense here. Don't be bringing that garbage in. This is a logic safe zone that we deal with and that we work in.
Right. Lounger. Yeah, it's safer for sure, but you don't keep a log of SKUs somewhere to browse them sometimes and find ideas, replens, deals. Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, sure.
You should. I know that when I buy something, it goes into a Google Sheet. It also goes into my Prep Center's Airtable. And if you're using something like Inventory Lab, you should have a list of all the things you've ever sold. I can go into Inventory Lab and I can find the things that I've sold. Heck, how long have I been Inventory Lab? Maybe I've been using it 7 years. I can go all the way back. So you can look in any of those places for the things you've sold over the years.
Yeah, I have a sourcing sheet that I have it. The tabs, it's by month. And it's just every single month for, over 4 years is on there. So I can kind of, it's there. Like you said, Inventory Lab, I've got tabs on my VA spreadsheets. I can go back through those. Or actually the statement is I can have them go back through those. Yeah, there are plenty of ways to research the old stuff and revisit it.
Tarrant Toolbox says a note on deleting out of stock. It's important to first close and then delete your out of stock listing. It's a good idea. I agree with that. All right, Chris, I'm gonna throw this. I'm gonna pitch this one to you. What is your best tip for avoiding price tanking? Like, what is the number one thing you look for when doing OA?
To avoid price tank, there's a bunch of really obnoxious answers that are probably the best answers, like source better and like those dumb answers, like that's the it depends of price tanking Q&A. Best tip for avoiding price tanking. Now, like in a vacuum, like we're not considering like the actual ASIN itself, right? I mean, if you're like, okay, I want to buy $500 worth of inventory today. Like if you're approaching it from there, what I like to do is kind of expand my maximum sales rank. I found it seems to ring true for the most part that, if you go up in rank a little bit, you're going to cut a whole bunch of people out, because we know for a fact that there are people that just set these, almost unrealistic expectations, nothing below 50,000 in rank, like I take, beauty, there's stuff around 200,000 that is just, you got plenty of elbow room, and just grab 10 units of something, send that in, and just kind of piece together your sourcing day from there. I think that's a valid strategy. And don't take 200,000. It's an arbitrary number. Every category has its own resistance point. But if you're active in social media, a quick scan would tell you, what the common what the group think is of what the maximum maximum rank is on a category. So I think there's validity there. Another, probably the best, is spend some time finding coupon codes and discounts that other people aren't going to find. Everybody has the racketing codes, the top cashback codes, like everybody sees that. Do a little research, find some names that you never heard of before, and go in and check their codes. Even just an extra 10% that nobody else is finding is going to buy you extra time if the pinch happens and there's downward pressure on the price.
Exactly. Yeah, I think that's the best way to do it. I want to talk about one other thing too. Sometimes you don't have to avoid the price tank, depending on where you're sourcing from. There's a guy on, I think it's Joe Hart on Twitter, and he sources from somewhere that tons of other resellers source from. And he just expects the item to tank. But he's gotten better at reading Keepa graphs than most people. And so he will just wait it out, knowing that the price will recover and it will sell. And maybe he's just got to hold on to it for just a little bit longer than everyone else is willing to. And that is a valid strategy as well. If there's a brand you know of that's going to tank or does quite often when there's a sale, and you know that it usually recovers, that lead I was talking about earlier today, that was an example of that. It's something that has recovered, but it is probably going to tank. And if I wanted to, I could buy and hold until it recovers the next round. And that's another way to do things. All right. Couple more questions, because I'm sure that both of our wives would like us to go hang out with our families. So, Mr. Schlott, I got a counterfeit without a test buy. Submitted the receipt upside down, annotated, normal way, pictures of the product. Seller support said the brand name is missing. What to do? You're probably just going to need to keep submitting. I'd have to see your receipt to be able to offer you a better idea there. Mr. Coughlin's in the house. What's going on, sir? If you guys have not listened to Perry and Kim on our podcast, you want to go and check that out. That was an excellent one there.
His ears are probably burning, so he had to check in.
Right. All right, guys, we're gonna wrap it up there for today. Make sure to go and check out the sponsor for the show. It is Tactical Arbitrage. You can check them out at cleartheshelf.com/tactical. And do us a huge favor, like this video, or I don't know, we might hunt you down on the internet and call you out a little bit. All right, guys, that's it. Have a great one.